What does coaching 100 plus games a year teach you? Not just about softball, but about parenting, pressure, and growing up. In this episode of Car Ride Conversations, I'm continuing my powerful series with a conversation with my dad and former coach. We take a real look at what coaching teaches you about parenting, why yelling doesn't necessarily work, even when it feels like it's right in the moment, and how your values, not your volume, shape your team. You'll hear honest stories from our travel ball days, the parenting missteps that led to real growth, and the simple three-step mindset every coach parent should try. Whether you're raising athletes or simply trying to be a better mentor, this episode will lead you to laughing, reflecting, and rethinking how to lead when it matters most. Welcome to Confident Calm and Clutch Car Ride Conversations. I'm your host, Valerie Alston, here to help parents and young athletes spark meaningful dialogue about mental toughness, resilience, and confidence. Whether you're headed to practice, a game, or just running errands around town, this podcast is your go-to for building stronger relationships and lifelong skills, one car ride at a time. So let's dive in. How does coaching, like all your experience with coaching, what did that teach you about being a parent? What were some things that or even a
Hmm.
grandparent now that you are Papa Gig?
Yeah, it's hard to go back in your head and think, when did I learn this?
Yeah, because it
But
was
when I
all,
started out, my very first experience of coaching, trying to do Little League with Jeff, I was a jerk. I didn't know what I was doing. So you did what you saw Vince Lombardi do. You yelled at people and said, "Get over here, get over here." And it was like, the kids are like, so
yeah.
you have to learn, right? You
Yeah,
have
and
to grow
these
up.
were like, by the way,
Yeah.
people, these were like
Yeah.
5 and 6 year olds playing
No, he was,
t-ball.
he was like
A little
seven or
older.
eight.
Okay.
But it was like, yeah, I learned that you have to be in it for the right reasons,
Yeah.
and you have to have a core set of values that you operate by, because those drive all your decisions. Because if you're just doing whatever feels right at the time, sometimes you feel like doing something stupid.
Yeah. Or
Yeah.
not good.
So I'll tell you that I remember when we were Bat Buster, what was it? What year was it? I think it was a 11s, and we were playing against Howard's team, which was the older team that Shannon
Okay.
was playing on.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
you always get geared up to play your big sisters,
Yeah.
for that game. And we were out at one of those parks in Southern California, and I wanted you guys to be playing as good as you could do. And it was just going lackluster at that tournament that weekend. And so I decided I'm going to have to change up the momentum. So I started like barking at people. To,
Yeah. I don't
I
remember
remember
this.
there was
I
a
must have blocked it out.
like Angie was playing right field, and a ball was hit to right field, and she let it get past her, and then she jogged after it. I went out there and said, "Angie, what the hell are you doing? Come on!" And she was so shocked because I had never yelled
Because
at her
it wasn't
before.
what you normally do. Yeah.
And it was like, I don't know. And then it was 11s, because we had Victoria and yeah, on the teams. Because remember, there was a play where she came around and slid into home and knocked the ball out of the catcher's mitt and scored the run, and the umpire called her out for hard
Stretch
sliding or something.
Yeah, something weird.
And I decided I was going to be
Get
super
tossed.
coach and get tossed out, right?
Yeah.
I made a total fool of myself yelling at the guy, and then he threw me out. I thought when I was walking away, I was like, what the hell am I doing? Is that the way to behave in front of people? And so I actually went over after the game, I went over because we were playing Knapp's team at that time. And I went over
Okay.
and I said, I'm sorry. I apologize to you guys. I should not have acted that way. I was trying to do something that didn't work out very well. And so you learn from those kind of things, but operate like my dad did, which was like let you play into your strengths. So as a parent, I always did that anyway. Is like, let's see what you can do before we put the limits on you.
Okay.
And I try to do that with the kids as well. But I mean, the practice, it's such an interesting crucible sports, because stuff happens and you have to deal with it in real time. And you have to make those decisions in real time. And you have to be able to do something that's going to produce a better outcome, which doesn't always happen. And you learn that when I do it this way, it works versus it doesn't work. And yelling and screaming never proved to be effective. And
Nope.
so that's when I probably shifted more into the motivational humor mode, keeping everybody light, loose, and focused versus yelling at them as a method for trying to motivate them.
Yeah.
And that's more my natural thing anyway. But it was like that was a learning experience. Dealing with the pressure of wanting your daughter to do well, and then it's really easy when she's doing well. It's a struggle sometimes when she's not. And so you,
What are
well,
you talking about? I was perfect all the time, always
yeah,
hitting 4 for 4.
yeah,
Was not,
sometimes.
as I just admitted, I had a whole
Yeah.
I had plenty of times where I was the zero, not the hero. We'll put it that way.
But it was, again, I think the key for us there was over time as we spent, because put this in context for those of us who don't know, in Southern California travel ball circles, we played about 125 tournament games a year. This is more than a lot of people play in their life. And so for from 8 through
18.
16s, it was
Yeah.
literally tons of games. So we had so much experience and you played so many different positions. And we had so many different challenges that it just gives you that context to figure out what works and what doesn't work. And
Yeah.
and also to learn that, hey, never as a coach, don't have a speech after a loss. Say, okay, guys, let's throw this one in the bank. We'll talk about it at practice, right? Because as soon as you start doing it, everybody's amped up and pissed off, and the parents are pissed off, and they all think their daughter should have won, done this. So, that emotion has to dissipate before you talk about it.
There's no learning that's happening at that point because
Yeah,
emotions are too high. And we know this from psychology, right? If your
yeah,
emotions are amped, your fight or flight's turned on, you're not taking information in and you're not in a coachable space there. So
yeah,
coaches for everybody, like,
yeah. So
and parents, yeah,
without the
the parents,
psychology,
this is important for the car ride home too,
yeah,
that if your kid has had a very emotional experience, tough loss, something like that, even a big win, let it dissipate. Because even after a big win, they're all high. They're not listening either. They're just excited. So before learning can happen, you gotta get back down into that neutral mode, that emotionally neutral, where your brain is open and your mind is ready to take in information. So things to
yeah.
consider.
So I think that's where I got in the more in the habit of what we would do is during the game I would make notes. And then based on what you just said, when you realize that after the game people are tired, either happy or
Awesome.
angry,
Yeah.
bring that back to practice and say, okay, remember when this happened, guys? How'd that work out? What should we have done different? What could we practice to make that better? And that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Because you have to continually be iterating to improve. And
Yeah.
those were good things to learn. In terms of the biggest for me is just having yourself a very simple process, a three-step process. So for me, it's like you got to coach the kids. You got to give every chance. You got to give every child an opportunity to succeed. Build a pattern of success rather than a pattern of failure. Incremental successes are much more important than anything else. When they see improvement and they keep working at it, it encourages them to work
Builds
harder.
that growth mindset of I can get better because there's proof. I'm
Yeah,
seeing it.
and
Yeah.
that is easy to squelch as a coach if you're a jerk or if you just don't allow kids to even try it or if they don't think, especially with girls, I found out coaching girls is that if they don't think you like them, they're not going to play for you. And it's just the way it is. And so that you're locking up their talent instead of freeing it up, and that's not a good thing.
Yeah.
And so that ability to make fun of yourself too when you do something stupid
Oh yeah, you were.
and to
I sometimes
inject it into
wonder if you played it off, but like there were plenty of times where you were doing stupid things and I was wildly embarrassed. But I don't know how much of that was intentional or you just like taking the pleasure of embarrassing your teenage daughter or those types of things.
that's always true.
All right, so before we dive into the conversation prompts for today, I hope you enjoyed the that snippet of conversation with my dad and I. I just want to ask that if you are enjoying these episodes, please share them with somebody, okay? I'm trying to grow this podcast and get it out into more people's hands. And so if you could kindly just share this episode. In fact, when you're finished listening, just go to the share tab up top, the little square with the arrow in it, and send it to a friend. Send it to a fellow parent, send it to a fellow coach. let them know that this podcast is something worth listening to. And if you could do that, I would be very grateful. All right, so let's get thinking about some conversation. Again, a quick reminder is that there are no wrong answers. Make sure you are taking turns talking and listening. Try to minimize your distractions as best you can. And remember that you can listen to each individual question and push pause and answer it, discuss it. Or you can just listen to all of the questions and just talk about whatever your heart desires. All right. So let's dive into our first discussion question. So this is for both parent and child in the car here. How do we tend to respond to pressure during tough moments? Whether it's in a game, maybe it's at school, maybe it's in a home situation. How do we currently handle those pressure situations? And as a follow-up to that, I would get you to talk about what helps you both together feel more calm or focused instead of stressed, and maybe what could you do differently together? And so I know that's like a couple questions there, but all centered around how do you right now respond to pressure moments together? Okay. Our second question or topic, if you will, is have you ever felt, to the kids, have you ever felt like a coach or a teacher didn't believe in you? Or maybe totally did? What made you feel that way? And what could your parent do to give you more belief in yourself? Okay, so talk about that, especially if things are not going perfectly, which they never will. All right. Question number three. Which matters more to you, having a big moment of success or feeling like you're getting a little better every day? And why? And tied with this, thinking about how do you tend to celebrate progress in your family or as a team coach parent relationship? Okay. And is it meeting your needs? All right. And our final question for today, fourth question. What is a time that one of you used humor or just laughed something off to help deal with a mistake or a tough moment? Do you all have a memory together where, I don't know, there was just a mistake and you looked at each other, made eye contact, and just laughed? Or maybe your parent, as a coach, said something totally innocently, but it was completely dirty or something? Just what's a silly moment that you all have experienced together as a coach and a parent? And if you're not specifically a coach as a parent kid, what's something that you've laughed together with after a mistake? Okay. Or how could you use more humor to deal with mistakes related to sport? So make sure you talk amongst yourselves, have some good conversation. Remember to just keep those conversations rolling. If it naturally progresses somewhere else, that is totally fine. All right. The whole goal of this podcast is to get y'all talking and sharing. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for joining me on Confident Common Clutch Car Ride Conversations. If you found this episode helpful, again, please share it with at least one other parent or coach who you think would benefit from this episode. If you're looking for more weekly tips or mindset shifts and additional conversation prompts to help you and your athletes stay confident, calm, and clutch no matter what's going on, please consider joining my newsletter at www.confidentcalmclutch.com/newsletter. And if you have suggestions for me for new topics or discussions that you would like to have or would like to see me discuss and talk about, there is a link in the show notes that you can share with me. You're also welcome to DM me at V Alston Coaching on Facebook or Instagram to give me some feedback. And I absolutely look forward to hearing from you and seeing what topics you are interested in. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Enjoy the conversation.